Hello, I'm here to do a training for you guys today. I want to talk about things that actually matter during your book launch. And this was inspired, and like I think this is going to be a bit on the edge training because I might piss a few people off. But I just want to be really honest and blunt with you guys today because I'm a bit tired of entertaining the same problems. So what's kind of sparked this is that I was thinking the other day about why, and this is going to sound really rude, but sometimes I get some really dumb coaching questions. Like, I just get asked stuff that can be Googled or stuff that really doesn't matter. And like, I don't say that to, what's the right word for this? I don't say it to make people feel bad, I don't say it to invalidate people's experience or struggle or problem. I say it because truthfully, it really doesn't matter what you do. You just got to pick something and do it because like my opinion and my input won't change the outcome. It does not matter that much. It's not that deep. So like, to give you an example, right, like, and I think this is helpful to say as well, is like when I hired my one-on-one coach, I didn't hire her to ask her business building questions. I didn't hire her to be like, all right, I want my business to start making money. How do I set up my website hosting? Because that's important, right? And like, how do I build an email list? And what amount of open rates actually matter? And what should I aim for? And how many followers should I have? And like, how many people should I talk to per day? Like I didn't ask her this basic stuff that I could Google, So I see this translate to questions that people ask me sometimes, like where sometimes people will ask me, I'm going to launch my book, when should I do my title reveal? When should I launch my book? What day matters? What time matters? I have people ask me, like how many people should I try to get on my email list? How many pre-orders should I aim for? What should I name my book? What should I name my character? Should I format it this way or that way? Do I need a website? Like people ask me these questions. It's like, it does not matter. Do whatever you want. Literally do whatever you want. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? Right? Because people are not going to be thinking in terms of like, oh, so-and-so launched their book on a Tuesday instead of a Wednesday. So now I'm not going to buy it because it could only be successful if it launched on a Tuesday, right? Or on a Wednesday. That doesn't matter. No one's thinking that. No one's thinking, oh, they put it out at 10 p.m. instead of 9 a.m. So I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to bother. Like if they're actually excited and you've done your job right of launching it, they're going to be checking to be like, when is it out? I want to buy it, right? They're not going to care that it came out in a time when I didn't see it. They're not going to think, oh, the formatting, I don't like that. I don't want to buy it. They're not going to think, oh, this person doesn't have a website. I'm not going to buy the book. These things do not matter. Like, truthfully, when I get these questions, I kind of get a little bit annoyed because I'm like, you could be asking me such better questions right now. And it's because I care about your success. It's like, you're like, I want to be really transparent. I give a lot of credit to people who work with me one-on-one because they pay me thousands of dollars, right? I want to put that out there. They pay me thousands of dollars and they trust themselves enough to say, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to do it fast. I'm going to do it well. I'm going to get support. I'm going to feel good about it. I'm going to improve my process. I'm going to get the support I need to be successful with it. And then they go out and do these amazing things. Like they release a book in 6 months that when they were struggling 3 months prior to even write the book and suddenly it's a best-selling book, and they finished it and they've gotten it out. And I have people who sell it in bookstores and it's like, holy shit, like you sold out in a bookstore and they've got copies on reserve. Like that's incredible. I have people who hit their pre-order goals and go, I didn't even think I could hit that and now I'm going to raise it. I have people who say like, oh my God, I'm going to quit my job. Like I got my book out, I'm going to go quit my job. Like people do these amazing things with their launches and they do it within a year or two of working with me when it took me like 5 years to be getting these kinds of results for myself, right? So it's a huge thing when people work with me one-on-one and say, I'm going to invest this amount of money and I'm going to show the fuck up for myself. I do not take that lightly. And then I get frustrated when people are working with me in that capacity and ask me, and what website should I use, right? And what should I do with my email list? Because that is not the stuff that's going to make you quantum leap. That's not the stuff that's going to move you along quickly. That's not the stuff that's going to actually get you results. You're asking the wrong questions, right? If you can Google it, or if you can decide and it's not actually going to affect the outcome, you shouldn't be asking me it. Like, it's just like, it's such a waste of my time. And I say this, I hope you're getting that I'm saying this from a place of wanting you to be successful and not invalidating what you're going through. If it is coming up for a reason and you're kind of like, it's really keeping you stuck because maybe you have an underlying thing going on around it, like a doubt or a fear or whatnot, then we can look at it. But it's like, if you're just asking because you can't make decisions for yourself, like maybe reevaluate how you're using my coaching, right? So I say that as an introduction because I want to talk about what actually matters when you launch a book and not all this basic stuff, right, that I get asked. So here's the first thing I want to say. I actually have a checklist. Let me look at it real quick. Okay. Here's the first thing I want to say that I feel really passionate about. Your vanity metrics do not matter. If you're worried about, I've only got X amount of followers, is now a good time to release the book? Or if you're like, I'm only getting this amount of comments or this amount of likes, is now a good time to release the book? That does not matter as much as you think it does, right? It's definitely a great measurement and it's great data to have to actually look at, like let's say you're getting no comments and likes, right? Then we might look at things and go, okay, do you actually have like people in your audience who know about your book at this point, who are excited about your book at this point? Do you have the right people in your audience at this point? Like that's something that we might look at. But if you're only getting 10 comments and you're like, this isn't good enough, I can't release the book. Not necessarily, because the thing is that there are lurkers. There are people who see everything you put out and never comment and never engage and never buy, not never buy, but like they never like let you know that they're there. I know because I'm that person. I rarely engage with stuff, but I watch a lot of stuff. I consume a lot of stuff. I am definitely seeing people's posts, right? So you have people who are there the whole time that will come out of nowhere and buy your book and you'll be like, where did that person come from? I only got 10 likes on my comment. Where did this person come from, right? Like that happens all the time. So if you just focus on these vanity metrics and the amount of followers you have, and then you decide, you make that mean something and you decide this either means like I can release my book or I can't, you're kind of, it's like, you're keeping yourself small. You're hindering your growth because you could have 10 people liking your post, but you could have 100 people who are like, I am so excited for this book. I heard about it on TikTok. I heard about this person talk about it. I've seen this on Amazon. I've seen this here and there. I'm so excited for it, right? And then they're going to buy it. And if you decide, well, I'm not going to release it because I only got 10 comments, you're kicking yourself in the foot, right? And so here's the thing, like, and I can say this as proof because I got so many sales for my book and I only had an audience of something like 120 people at the time of release, but I had so many people buy it. I had someone come to me and say, I saw this on Twitter. I'm not even on Twitter. I'm not even talking about the book on Twitter, and people were talking about it on Twitter. So like that's proof that people can see your book and be talking about it elsewhere. And if you're only paying attention to, I've only got 30 followers, and you're making that a reason for whether you can release this book or not, you are focusing on the wrong stuff. Here's what I would focus on, right? I would focus on the people you have in front of you and just focusing on keeping those people engaged, keeping them excited, building community, building trust with them, and that will grow from there. If you can sell to everyone in your audience, if you can get them to buy, they're going to go out and talk about it to people. They're going to go out and recommend it. They're going to go review it. The sales themselves are going to build your algorithm on Amazon, right, and your ranking. So like all these things are important. Don't focus on what you don't have. Focus on what you do have. And on that note, what I think matters the most is that you're actually building and engaging with an audience that you give a shit about, right? Like I wouldn't be focusing on, I've only got X amount of followers and I need more to be successful. I'd be focusing on, do I actually care about these people? Do I actually want to show up for them every day? Are these people that I'm excited to talk to my book about every day? Are these people who get it, who respond and go, hell yes, I get it. Like, I'm so excited for this book. I love this character. I love this concept. I love this saying. I can't wait. If you don't feel that from your audience, if you don't feel like this is fun for me to actually show up and talk about it every day, I have people who actually care, that's the thing I would be focusing on and trying to rework. Because here's the thing. It's very hard for you to build excitement and hype around your book and actually want to show up and sell it every day and talk about it if you're feeling like it's a huge chore and you have to show up for an audience that don't like you, right? I would be wanting to be so excited about my audience in front of me, right? Because really put that in perspective, it's like you have to like go do a speech at school in front of your classmates and you're like, oh, this is awkward. Half of these people don't like me. Half of these people don't know me. Half of these people don't care about this class. Like, I am not going to have fun presenting something here. But it's like, alternatively, if you were told, if you had a group of people come up to you and say, did you watch the new TV show? And you watched it and you were like, heck yes, we need to talk about everything. We need to talk about what went wrong and what went right and what this character did. And you'd be having so much fun talking about it with them, right? It's a totally different vibe. It's like you actually want to be there in that conversation. That's what you want with your audience. So that is what I would focus on is this actually an audience full of people that I give a shit about showing up for? Not, is this enough people, an amount of people with an amount of response and physical evidence that I can justify releasing a book, right? Because what's actually going to matter, what's actually going to lead to sales, what's actually going to keep people engaged and make you want to show up and sell it effectively is that you actually care about being there, right? That's the important thing. So that's the first thing I would definitely focus on. Okay, second thing is, and this is kind of a similar thing, is like, don't focus on like, when is the perfect launch day? When is the perfect launch time? What is the perfect way to do this? What is the perfect way to do a cover reveal? None of that matters as much as you think it does. I'm going to talk about timeline in a second because timeline is important. Timeline is like, you do want a certain order of how you do things. You do want to give yourself enough time to be doing them effectively. That is something I teach in a lot of depth in my launch course because like, we definitely want to be setting a timeline that works for you and actually doing things in order, yes, right? But that doesn't mean, oh, if I don't release on a Tuesday, it's going to flop, right? It doesn't mean, oh, if I have to push back my launch, it's not going to work, right? Or if I have to bring up the launch date, it's not going to work. Or if I launch at this time instead of that time, it's not going to work. Or if I don't have pre-orders up by a certain amount of time, it's not going to work. Like, none of this matters as much as you think it does. What matters is that you actually show up and you get things done and you actually move through the launch process, right? So ultimately, like, what is more important here with this part is that you're actually, like, the consistency to it and the momentum to it. Instead of you focusing on, I need this to be out by this date at this time or else it's gonna flop, it's more around the energy of, I want to show up and be visible. I want people to hear about this every day. I want to be excited to talk about it every day. I want there to be hype around it every day. I want there to be publicity around it every day. I want people to be reviewing it every day. It's like getting those things in motion. And along the way, like meeting these launch timelines and milestones. So like, if you're like, okay, we need to do a cover reveal, it's like, how do we make this the most exciting cover reveal ever? How do we make this the most fun event ever? How do I really get my energy behind it? How do I really have fun with it? How do I make sure it reaches as many people as possible? Instead of going, if it's not on this day, it's not gonna work, right? And it's like, almost like, if you want to get reviews out, it's like, how do I get people so excited to get an early access to this book and want to get their hands on it and get as many arcs out as possible? Instead of being like, if I don't have it this way and if I don't have it on NetGalley, it's not going to work, right? So it's that kind of thing. Pre-orders, it's like, how do I have the most fun, exciting pre-order campaign ever? How do I get the best ideas for things to offer, things I'm going to have fun with, things I'm going to be so excited about teasing every day, things I'm just like, I know my audience is going to love and I'm going to want to talk about multiple times. How do I build a fun, freaking pre-order campaign that my audience is going to be equally excited about? And then if you have to push back the pre-order campaign for a week because something goes wrong on the technical side, it's not like, oh shit, like this isn't going to work. It's like, oh my God, like the anticipation is building. I literally cannot wait to talk about this. My audience knows something is coming. They are so hyped. Like, this doesn't even matter. The fact that we have to push this back for a week, if anything, it makes it better because people have to wait another week, right? And they're so excited as it is, right? So it's like totally different energy. And this is also the part I want to say to this, is that it's about holding your energy through the whole launch. This is something that matters so much that doesn't really get talked about, is your ability to still be as excited about the book in January when you announce it as you are in September when it comes out, right? Because over time, it can get boring. It can be like, okay, I've been talking about this for like 3 months already and I'm over it. I'm sick of it. I'm tired of it. I've been talking about the same way for 3, 6, 9 months. I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's about the ability to be innovative with your marketing and have fun with it every step of the way and find new ways to talk about it, find new things to tease. You know, like, don't reveal everything at once as well. Like, if you're excited to talk about things, give yourself milestones to reveal stuff and be like, I've been waiting to talk to you about this. I'm finally going to reveal the cover. I'm finally going to reveal the first chapter. I'm finally going to reveal this character. I'm finally going to reveal the pre-order campaign. Like, things that are going to light you up to be like, I have been waiting. I have been sitting on this since January, since I knew the book was coming out, right? It's holding that energy and excitement that people can feel in your marketing so that they feel excited and interested and engaged. If you aren't excited about your book, how do you expect other people to be excited about your book? If you cannot get the momentum up every day and the hype every day to be like, I just want to fucking talk about it again because I know you guys are excited and I'm fucking excited. If you don't feel that way about your book, how do you expect other people to be that way about your book? Holding your energy is one of the hardest things, because as the launch goes on, it gets harder and harder to do that, and it gets harder and harder to stay in that energy, but you're also trying to do it as an author who probably has a day job and responsibilities and most of the time feels really drained and exhausted. So you being able to get your momentum and energy up, it's not so much about faking it and being like, oh, I'm so excited all the time. It's about actually feeling excited. It's like, you can be tired from a day at your job and you can still be really excited that the next season of Stranger Things is going to be on TV, right? And you can, you know how you're just excited anyway, and it's like, I've been waiting for this, I cannot wait. You text a friend, it's like, it's finally here, I'm sitting down to watch it, oh my God, right? You don't have to fake that excitement. It's like, it's genuine. So it's about channeling that for your book and being like, every day, even if you just got home from work, being like, I just wanted to tell you guys about this because I'm actually excited to tell you this. I actually want to talk about this with my book, right? Like, that's the energy. That is such a huge freaking thing to focus on. That's going to matter way more than the right day, the right time, the perfect thing, right? So that's number 2. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about, which ties into that with timeline, is like, I do believe in taking action before you feel ready. I believe in taking imperfect action, but with launches specifically, because there's so much to it, because there's so many factors that do factor into whether it's successful or not. Because your pre-launch, like your launch timeline itself, it determines a lot about your launch day sales and then how sales go after that point for the rest of the book's lifetime, right? And there are things you can do later to improve it, but what's going to determine the success of your book is the launch itself, right? So we do want to get this right, as right as we possibly can. So I don't want this to hinder you. I don't want it to make you feel like to get paralyzed and be like, oh, I can't take action at all. What if I mess it up? It's not about that. It's just like, go in with an actual plan. Don't go in and be like, I'm going to wing it. I'm going to go into it based on what I read on Google that this one person told me to do. I'm going to go into it without actually having launched before and knowing all the steps I need to take and just maybe throw a launch party and see how that goes, right? Don't do that, because that's not going to be effective. What's going to be more helpful for you is like being willing to take action and make mistakes and being perfect in the process, but have the plan, have the timeline, have the foresight to set some deadlines and some milestones that you're working towards. Have the foresight to be like, this is the order things should go in for it to be most effective. Here is what I can actually manage right now with my resources, with my time, my energy, my budget. I can, like, some people are going to say, I have $4,000 in my savings account, so I can hire an editor and I can have this out by March, right? 3 months, right? Some people are going to be like, that's not an option. I'm going to have to pay off an editor as I go. So maybe it makes more sense to have the editing done by June, which means I might launch in September, right? That is going to be different for everyone. So it's about figuring out, here is the timeline that makes the most sense for me, that is going to enable me to have the time and energy and budget to show up for this most effectively, for me to not feel stressed and pressured and burnt out in the process, for me to be able to say, okay, now our cover reveal is happening and we're ready to go. Now the arcs are going out and they're ready to go. Now the pre-order is happening and they're ready to go, and it's not going to be this whole, oh my God, I messed it up. I should have done that earlier. I should have done that later. I have to push this back. I have to do this. I have to change that. It's so stressful, right? You want to have the timeline. You want to have the plan, okay? And then go in with a plan that's going to keep you, for the most part, on track. And then if things come up that you have to change, it's not going to be a huge deal, because you're not going to feel like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. This is chaos. You're going to feel like, okay, I had one thing go wrong and I know how to fix it, because I have a fucking plan, right? Like, it's going to be fine. So that's my third tip. Third tip. Yes. Yes. And then my fourth tip for you is basically, this is really important. So this is a huge part of what I teach in my course that makes it different, right? Is basically have an actual fucking strategy. Like, don't just put some random marketing tactics in the play and go, I hope this sells my book, right? Someone told me to be on Facebook, so I'm going to be on Facebook and hope that sells my book. Someone told me to post in some Facebook groups, so I'm going to do that and hope it sells my book. Someone told me to be on Twitter, so I'm going to be on Twitter and hope that sells my book, right? Like, that's not going to work, okay? You need to actually have a plan. So here's the first thing you want is a freaking sales process. You want to have a way to establish product awareness with your readers, to basically say to them, and like put your book in front of them and go, this is a book. You should know about it, right? They're not going to find your book if you don't have a way to get discovered online, if you don't have presence online, if you don't have visibility, if you're not showing up regularly. You need to have a way for people to find you and become product aware of your book, right? And then you want to move people through to the next stage where it's like, this is for you. This is how you know it's for you. You're engaging them, you're entertaining them, you're telling them about the book, you're putting out the right content, the right messaging, the right positioning, the right branding, right? You're putting the pieces in place that make sense for that next stage of the sales process. And then you're converting them to actually buy the book because you have incentives, you have ways to get them to buy. It's like they've decided, I want this book, I'm interested, I'm going to buy it. Why should I buy now instead of later? Why should I buy it now instead of when the book comes out? Or when the book comes out, why should I buy it on that day instead of waiting 3 months because the book is then available forever, right? It's about saying, okay, you want to buy this book, here's why you should buy it now, because the price is going to go up on launch day, or there's going to be a pre-order incentive, you're going to get this gift, you're going to get this thing, right? You sign up to my newsletter, you're going to get an exclusive preview, right? Move people to the next stage. Have a plan for moving people to the next stage. If you don't have that, you're just like, I'm going to be on Facebook and I'm going to hope that people find my book magically and they're going to be interested and buy it. That's not a plan. It's not a strategy, right? You need a sales process. So I teach this in my launch course because the whole foundation of what I teach, my signature process in my course, is that it is a sales process. I'm essentially teaching you a sales process for launching specifically that is going to result in sales, right? That is why people come out of this course like, holy shit, my book's selling. No fucking shit, because you have a sales process, right? And like the other thing here is like I said, messaging and positioning. Actually have the right blurb. Have the right marketing content and captions. Have content that actually your ideal readers want to be engaging with, that is going to add value to their lives. It's going to make them feel like they're part of a community. Position the book for the right audience, for the right market, for the right person, right? Have branding that actually attracts people in. These are all pieces we go through in my launch course because it's important, and also because it's way more effective than just throwing random marketing strategies out and going, well, that should be enough, right? So that's important. That's number 4. And 5, this is something I wanted to end with because it's something that I really believe in, that I have a lot of thoughts around, and I feel is something I do very differently to most people. What I see time and time again, and what comes up in a lot of conversations with my clients, is this rapid release strategy that people are following, that is getting taught in our industry, because it creates income quickly. So yes, I acknowledge this will create income quickly, but it's not sustainable. And I will teach you some ways why. So I have people who say to me, that's really alluring. I would love to be able to get a book out every 2 months, every 3 months, and have people binge through my series and therefore make a steady amount of sales from that because people are buying all year long. The trade-off to that people don't talk about is that you have to actually have the resources to be able to do that. You have to have the time to be able to write a good book in a month and then get that out the next month, and then write another book and get that out the next month, and then do the same thing all year long while being in a day job, usually, which is the case with authors, right? Even if you went down to part-time or quit, you would still need to be able to write that many books in a year. And there are so many factors and variables that come into that. Do you have ideas? Do you have a creative process that works for you? Do you have a writing routine? Do you get stuck? Do you feel pressured on deadlines? I left my publisher back in 2020 because I had to write 4 books in a year that year. I had to release 4 books in that year, so I had to have them by deadlines. I essentially felt like I was writing a book, finishing it, moving on to the next book, finishing it, moving on to the next book all year long. Suddenly, I was living for my launches instead of living for me. And I also felt so much pressure to finish these books outside of my own creative process and flow. It was like I knew the books were not ready to finally come through me yet. I knew that I needed more time to write them and have them be good books, but I felt pressured to be like, I need to have this done by June 1st. And that was really intense for me. I didn't like that. Some people are like that, where they're like, I don't want to do it that way. I don't want to feel pressured in my creative process. I'm definitely going to get a book out a year, but I don't want to be forced to write 6 books a year. That's not a happening thing. I can't do that. I don't have the time for that. I can't do that and raise kids. Can't do that and work a job. I can't do that with my responsibilities, right? So you have that time piece, you have the creativity piece, you have the energy piece. Do you even have energy after being at a job all day to do that? To write a book and market books and publish books at the same time, which is what you're essentially doing all year long. Do you have budget for that? Can you actually afford to hire editors every 2 months? Because I certainly cannot, right? And I'm doing very well for myself, but even I can't do that right now. You need to be able to factor these things in. Can you afford your covers? Can you afford some marketing help if you need it? Can you afford your coach that keeps you on track, right? If you can't afford these things, you're not going to have a sustainable author brand and business. You might make some quick money for a while, but eventually you're going to hit a cap. You're going to burn out. You're going to get stressed. You're going to feel blocked and pressured in your creative process. You're going to hate it. You're literally going to be living all the time for these launches on these deadlines, and you're going to get sick. You're just going to hate your life, right? Like, these are all trade-offs to the rapid release strategy process that gets taught in our industry. So yes, it's alluring to be like, yeah, I could do that and I could make some money really quickly. But what makes that work is the momentum of going over and over and over. You can't do it once and be like, I did that and now it's successful. You have to do it over and over and over all year long for multiple years to even get to a point, like even in a year's time, where you can then go, okay, now I'm going to slow things down. Now I'm going to do things maybe 3 or 4 times a year. I'm going to do it once or twice a year, right? Even then, you have to have the resources to get to that point, which a lot of people cannot. A lot of my clients struggle to get 1 book out a year, right? And that burns them out, and that is a struggle for them. So how are they supposed to get to that point with 6 months in a year, with 6 books in a year? That's just not a thing for a lot of people, right? So that's the trade-off. That's why I don't like it very much. I think it's unsustainable. I also think that there is a reason that your big 5 authors, if you haven't noticed this, they take a minimum of 9 months to release a book, if not 12 months. And these are established, well-known, reputable authors who could easily release 4 books a year and have people buy every time. Like, they can do that. They have the credibility and the established brand that they could do that and make more money every year. There is a reason they don't. It's partly because they are with traditional publishers, so there's a lineup of books that have to go before them, and then they have to juggle editors and whatnot. So, like, that's a thing. But aside from that, it's the fact that they're going to take time to write a good book and to take it through multiple rounds of editing to make it polished enough that it's known in market to be a good book. You know, like, part of, like, you feeling good about selling your book is that you know it's been through editing, it's a good book. You're not having doubts once it's out of, like, maybe it could have been better, maybe there's typos, maybe I don't feel so good selling this, right? They don't have that because they know it's a fucking good book. It's been through the work. And, like, I'm not saying you have to go through multiple rounds of editing. You can go through one as an indie author and have a fairly decent book, but the fact that it's been through editing, it needs to go through something. It needs to be worth its price. It needs to be something you feel good marketing, right? It needs to be good. It needs to, like, a lot of people will look at cheap books and go, there's something wrong with that because it's so cheap, right? People want to buy good books. People want to pay the money to buy good books. I have this said to me a lot by readers, right? I rarely ever get pricing objections around my books that are priced at full price and sell every month. And that's because people, if they do have a pricing objection, it's usually because there's, like, a weird currency conversion that makes it a bit more expensive. But even then, I just say to them, go to your library. Tell me what library you want the book to be in. I'll send them a sell sheet. You can get it in your library. Because that's why libraries exist. It's not my job to make my book cheap for people. It's people's job to be able to afford the things they want to buy. I have to run a business. I have to sustain myself. I have to pay my bills, right? So I have to price accordingly, and I have to feel good about pricing accordingly. Anyway, I'm getting off track. My point being that, like, the sustainability is important. You having a book that you've poured time, money, and energy into, like, and you've spent time with and worked on and poured your blood, sweat, and tears into, I would hope that book is still selling in 10 years and is still known and liked and has a fan base in 10 years, as opposed to it being, oh, this thing sold for 6 months because I put it out really fast and it got some traction with the algorithm on Amazon, and then people forgot about it because I released another book and made a lot of money from that, right? That's a lot of time and energy and commitment from you to be making sustainable income year round, as opposed to putting the time and energy in now to get books established in the marketplace that people are still going to know about in 5-10 years, that are still going to be buying in 5-10 years. And yeah, you might have slow sales in the beginning. You might only have so many people buy in the beginning, or it might only sell for so many months in the beginning, but that will build over time. And the more books you have out, the difference is that with rapid release, usually it's a situation where unless you've built out a funnel and you're a really known author in that space, and people are starting with book 1 and working their way through a series, what usually happens is that people see this book, they buy it, and then it stops selling, and then they get to the next book and they buy it, and it stops selling, and they get to the next book and they buy it, and it stops selling. It doesn't actually sell consistently. It just sells for a while. If you are doing the long-term strategy, you have book 1 and it sells, and then the sales might slow or drop off, but it'll still sell years later. And then you have another book that's also selling at the same time, so you're making 2 amounts of sales instead of 1 every month, right? And then you have a third book and it makes 3 amounts of sales instead of 1. And then you have 5 books and it makes 5 amounts of sales instead of 1. I still get sales for Ryan Rupert, which is my first book, 6 years later. And I rarely market it now, right? But people still know about it and they still buy it because it's still at bookstores. But I'm also making sales on the most recent book that I put out, right? I make sales from multiple books because I spent the time to establish them, to make sure they had people who would go out and talk about them and recommend them. And I make sure that they were available in bookstores, not just Amazon. Not just exclusive to Amazon, where if I get hacked, I lose it all, which, by the way, happened to me, where I lost 5 years of work because my Amazon account got hacked and I lost half my books. I take the time to make sure it's not just on Amazon, it's in physical stores, it's in libraries, it's in all these other retailers, so I don't just lose all my income. I lost one stream of income and I still make consistent sales for the most part for all my books, right? And they still sell every year, right? And that is the difference. That is how you become sustainable over time. That is how you're still going to be in business as an author and feel good about your process and not be burnt out every month and actually have stable income coming in 10 years. If you are serious about having a career in authorship, that's kind of the goal, right? It's not about having rapid release for a year and being able to keep up with that until you burn out and going, well, that fucking sucked and now I don't have any income coming in because I don't have the time and energy or budget to keep putting books out. I'm just so stunted in my progress and my process that I can't do it anymore, right? You don't want to be in that situation a year from now. You want to be, you might be having slow growth and it might be frustrating, but you're going to be so much better off in 10 years. You're going to be so glad you took the slow path in 10 years, right? That is my philosophy. That's what I believe. That is what I've seen to be true for me 6 years in, right? I've been practicing what I preach since day one. I've been doing it this way since day one. I have felt so passionately about this since day one. I have never changed or pivoted my strategy, right? And it's paying off for me now, right? And I don't feel that way about my process. I love that I can write 2 books a year and it feels really crazy and I get to do it on my own terms, in my own time. And then I can publish 1 or 2 books a year and it doesn't feel pressured. It doesn't feel like, oh my God, there's so much I have to get done really quickly and I can't afford it and whatnot. It's like, I get to do it on my terms. It gets to work every time. I make book sales every month, right? I make it in multiple ways. That is more important to me than getting something out fast and making a quick cash month. Right, and then feeling like, oh my God, I have to do it all again next month and I don't want to, and I'm starting from zero again with my income, and oh my God, I have to figure all these things out. That's not it. That's not the vibe for me. If you agree with that, if you like that, if you resonate with that, then my launch course, the way I teach it is different, and that's probably what's going to work better for you if you have been following rapid release up until now and going, this is not working for me anymore. I teach it differently. I do things differently. So that is what I believe matters in a launch, is that, you actually care about your audience. You have a sustainable process. You have a sales process. You have ways to actually get people to buy, right? And you have timing. You have a plan for what you're doing, so you're not stressed out all the time, like trying to figure it out and wing it. And also, you're able to hold the energy in your launch. You're actually excited to show up and cultivate, excitement and hype in your launch. That all matters way more than the things people get hung up on and focus on. And I just wanted to create a training about that, because I think it's so important to have these conversations, and I see so many people doing it, and I just get so tired of it. Like, not to be dramatic or anything, but it's just like, this is easy fixes. It's as easy as you deciding, I'm done. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to focus on that anymore. And realizing this is what matters. This is what I want to put my time and energy towards, because this is what's going to move me forward faster. This is what's going to get me actual results in launching and authorship, right? So that's basically all I had to say. I hope this has been helpful. Let me know what your biggest takeaway was down below. I'm going to link the launch course as well in case you're interested in checking out that course. It's basically, you can learn more, you can see success stories, you can see what's included, you can see the 2 different ways to join, all on that page. So I'll make sure it's linked below for you guys if you're interested in learning more about that. But apart from that, that's all I wanted to say, and I will speak to you guys again soon.